wanted to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandflakes here, back with a new Granblue Fantasy Relink video. For today's video, I'm going to be doing a very informal, quick and dirty guide on the Captain character. I've tried to do a much more serious tone and vibe to this video, but I've had to do so many retakes that I've kind of just emotionally given up, and so here is the video. Hopefully you guys don't mind the quick and dirtiness and scuffness of it. I'll try and make more in-depth videos about more aspects of her kits as the days go on, but I've noticed a big lack of more in-depth analyses of this character, and if you're curious about the character, I hope this serves as a brief introduction slash interest peaker so that you're more invested into playing the Captain, because the Captain is very fun, they're very versatile, and you can really do anything you want in this character, and I hope to show that off. So before I get into their skills, let me just show you my credentials really quickly. Full disclosure, I have not been on this game since day one, and I also work a full-time job, so my stats aren't as high as I'd like them to be, especially since I know that people really like having these oh, I'm the expert, I have all these hours in. Unfortunately, I'm not that, but I do like making videos, so hopefully you guys appreciate what I have to say, just because, yeah, it would be nice to have more content on the Captain, and hopefully somebody will take that mantle if it is needed. So anyways, with all that said, if you guys don't remember what the Captain does, they operate off of the art system, which essentially stacks as you attack an enemy. You only get art stacks at certain points in your combos, so she has a few combos. This is kind of, you'll probably just play around with the combos as you play the game. I don't want to go through them just now. I'll make a video for them more in depth, but basically the main thing you need to know is that the higher your arts level, the better your skills are going to be. And so for the skills, just to go through them very quickly, the most important skills that I believe your character uses are going to be the ones I have listed here. So these 4 skills, Decimate, Armor Break, Rage, and Reagan Leaf, I believe you should use as a Captain if you are new to her, or you're playing with newer players, or you're just trying to level them up as the game or as your progression goes on. So the reason why I like these 4 skills in particular is because they all line up very neatly. And so I'll go over these skills first and then go over the other skills that exist in order of priority in my opinion. So Decimate, first of all, is going to be your AoE skill or your main burst skill. It has a lot of hits, it does a lot of damage, and so you should really always use this at Arts 4. Same thing with Reagan Leaf, which is going to be kind of Decimate light. Oh, by the way, I should tell you the cooldown. So KEKONA, who is on the Granblue Fantasy fan Discord, has made a guide, a text-based guide for all this, so I'll leave all the nitty-gritty numbers in there. I'll try and bring them up as I mention them, but if you want to know the specifics, that will be in the Google Doc linked in the description. Once again, thank you KEKONA for letting me use that. It's been a big help, but if I'm gonna be honest, I don't have the brain power to properly put those all in this video. So Decimate, 30-second cooldown, a lot of damage, use it Arts 4. Reagan Leaf, 50-second cooldown, also a good amount of damage, mainly used to cycle your arts levels back and forth so you can continue doing damage and get the bonuses of cycling your arts. Armor Break is going to be your armor debuff or defense debuff that you use. It's going to line up pretty well with Rage. The cooldown I think for Armor Break is 45 seconds and the cooldown for Rage is 60 seconds. Rage is going to be your attack up buff. So these abilities all combined will make sure that you and your friends, or your group rather, will always cap your damage during important moments in the fight. This is most easily seen during Proto Bahamut, which I'll probably have in the background while I'm just rambling to myself, but you'll see that whenever Proto Bahamut goes down for a period of time where we can slap him, I always pop all these abilities and my personal damage spikes up, and maybe my allies' personal damages spike up because not everyone in this game has a perfect build, which means that a lot of people are still trying to struggle to hit that damage cap. So you're essentially providing value to your entire team by allowing them to hit way higher than they should be. So outside of these 4 skills, we're gonna also have a skill called Overdrive Surge. It functions very similarly to Armor Break, except it's way more focused on damage and stun than it is on a debuff. So Armor Break or Overdrive Surge, you really want to have at Arts 4, because at Arts level 1, it does the same amount of damage as Armor Break, but when you hit Arts level 4, it does quadruple the amount of Armor Break, which is an insane spike in damage. The other skill that I think a lot of people end up using is Miserable Mist. I actually don't know if Miserable Mist is something that people like using or if I just saw it memed on, but it's essentially a debuff to your enemy. So reduce their attack, reduce their defense for a pretty long while, but it doesn't do damage, so I personally don't like it. Rain of Arrows is another skill that people seem to enjoy using a little bit. The damage is pretty static, just like Armor Break. the effect that scales with your arts level is going to be the debuff down and the duration of debuff down, not actually the damage. For the other skills that you have, you're going to have stuff like Stall, which is a pretty good skill. I think Stall as an ability, so if you guys don't know, debuffs in this game work really weirdly because bosses kind of tend to just like pop out of certain debuffs due to a phase change. So Stall is kind of one of the spells or debuffs that is affected by that. If you try and stall right before a boss is going to phase change, Stall will look absolutely terrible. But if you're just going to use it during like a middle phase where you're not really chasing a hard phase change, you're just kind of slapping the boss around and you're waiting for like your SBA to come up or your Link to come up or a break to happen, then Stall is really good there. If you're at Proto Bahamut and you stall when he's at 82%, it's going to look absolutely terrible. But let's say you stall on like, I don't know, like Pet A when he's just running around, it's going to look way better because the odds are that Pet A is not going to phase while Proto Bahamut is going to phase any given moment because of how damage works in that fight. So, rant about stall aside, the other skill that I personally like a lot is going to be called Substitute. Substitute is kind of the masochist, I take all the damage my allies receive spell, and it comes with a pretty massive defense buff that scales really heavily with your arts level up. So you're going to want to make sure you have arts before you cast this, otherwise you might just drop to the ground and become a floor tank when you cast it. But keep in mind that if you use the perfect dodge mechanic to become invulnerable while you have Substitute available, you actually immune everything. So if you're playing with newer friends or you're playing with people like randoms or you're just like, you want to try a funny meme tank build, Substitute is perfect. It's so funny just running into a fight with friends, dodging like a really obvious telegraphed ability, and then just seeing all the damage coming in through the tether and taking nothing, and then your team barely clears because you've essentially become like a health battery for them. For the other spells that aren't as inspired in my opinion, we have Phalanx, which is a AoE damage cut. Your allies have to be within a certain area to get that damage cut, so make sure that they're within there. Again, the effectiveness and the duration scale with arts level. Panacea, same targeting system, circle around where you aim, more HP based on arts level. Clarity is going to be, again, it's going to be a debuff removal along with a regen. The regen heals more based on arts level. Revive is going to be a pick up ability that I don't think people really use that often, but is very good on a bot Jita if you're going to prog offline. So if you're playing mostly single player or offline, you can put Revive on your ally Jita or your AI Jita and it'll be very good because they usually revive you almost instantly. Veil is going to be a debuff immunity to your entire party. Keep in mind that this is not a debuff removal. You have to cast this before you get debuffed or else you'll stay debuffed or your allies will stay debuffed. And then the spell is going to be a projectile that you throw, or like kind of like an AoE that you throw, that's going to do damage to an enemy and also remove a buff from them. This hasn't yet seemed very particularly useful, but I'm assuming that bosses in the future will have buffs so that this spell has more value, which will make Captain even more prized in those late game fights. And then the last spell, I think, is going to be Conduction, which is essentially Captain gifting their SBA gauge to their allies. If you're going to use this, try and always use this as low of the SBA gauge as possible so that you aren't too far behind your allies. You do gain 10% of your SBA gauge per ally cast, so if you can float that magic number at like being 70% when everyone else is casting, this will be a lot better, but I think it requires a pre-made for it. If you're going to be using pre-mades, you're probably better off just using Armor Break and Rage to help buff them up. So with all that aside, I feel like I probably should go over combos first, but just to go over combos, if you guys are wondering why I recommended the Armor Break and Rage pairing, it's purely just because it's a very simple combo to get with. I will have gameplay in the background again of me and Pro Bahamut just kind of doing this over and over again, but if you're like if there's an obvious phase that's happening, casting Rage into Armor Break and then every other ability you have will almost guarantee that you cap, and also guarantees all of your allies will cap, and it's a ton of damage. Like having your allies all capping while you cap on a very straightforward rotation is very invaluable, and also lets you cast Reagan Leaf as it comes up, just because the cooldown is so much shorter than your important buff abilities. And in my opinion, it's just a really simple way to play the game as you're trying to get comfortable with the character. As I personally got stronger, I swapped out both Armor Break and Wrath, or Armor Break and Rage, for Overdrive. What's it called? Overdrive Surge and Stall. Stall is going to be my flexibility, but Overdrive Surge is just so much damage. I'm mostly using it just because since I've gotten stronger, I trust myself more and more to kind of carry runs that I'm still queuing in. Just because I used to run Armor Break and Wrath, or rather Rage, because I wasn't sure if I could carry my own weight, and therefore I'd help others carry their weight. But with the more damage I've gotten, the more damage that Overdrive Surge has done, and so I feel more comfortable with using it myself. And then Stall, once again, just really useful, especially on Pet A when he's running around a lot. It just gives you so much more time to wail on him. Obviously, it's not really as much of a damage spike as it is more of a utility spell, but I personally like it a lot. And then with all those skills aside, we can go over the sigils that you're going to want to use for the captain. In KEKONA's Ghoul Doc, they'll have their own lower set of recommendations, and I'll give you my set of recommendations. They do overlap for the most part, but I'll tell you guys where they kind of differ. So again, playing Captain as a DPS build, you're going to want to hit damage cap, so that's going to be level 65. If you have the ability to, that's only going to need 4 damage cap maxed out, and then a tertiary source probably from the imbuing onto your weapon. So again, since I haven't been able to play that much, I personally can't get to that number, so I have a lot of redundant sigils lying around, but you can see that I do prioritize damage cap on my slots. Outside of that, we are going to try and focus on getting your soul or your personal sigil on here. I think there's a bit of discussion on whether or not Fearless Spirit is important, but you definitely need Fearless Drive. Fearless Drive is such an insane source of power for the captain. Essentially, it gives you shortened cooldown based on when you achieve an arts level. So for every time you achieve arts level 4, you get minus 10% cooldown on all of your abilities. And that's the reason why I like using Stall, because Stall as an ability, the cooldown is 100 seconds, but each time you get arts level 4, you get minus 10% off the base cooldown, which is minus 10% cooldown. So if I use Fearless Drive 3 times while my stall's on cooldown, instead of 100 seconds I'm only waiting 70 seconds. If I manage to cast it 5 times, I actually get stall up within 45 seconds, which makes it the same cooldown as what Armor Break would be if I never had this sigil. So it's a very powerful tool. It makes your uptime way better than you would expect on a lot of your utility, and that's why I think Captain is so flexible because of this specific sigil. So Fearless Spirit, again, pretty optional. It's like debated whether or not you need that attack and defense boost, but Fearless Drive you 100% need. For the other ones, War Elemental is going to be something you're going to be searching from the curio shop or from where we call the guy, and then Supplementary Damage is another sigil you're going to be chasing from that curio shop as well. I got really lucky. I promise I didn't mod my game. I somehow got War Elemental and 2 supplementary damages within my first 50 curio coins. So I guess even though I don't have time to grind everything, I am lucky in that regard. So good on me. For the other sigils that I recommend, obviously the trio of Guts, Potion Hoarder, and Quick Revive, those 3 will always be very good. The more new you are to the game and the less comfortable you are with defensive gameplay, the more I recommend having all 3. And then the better you get in the game and the more mechanically comfortable you are, I would subtract 1 by 1. So I would always recommend having Potion Hoarder, because Potion Hoarder lets you kind of cheese your honor level by spamming blue pots, but also just gives you a lot more flexibility with your survivability. And then Guts is just a very close second, because it is very good at surviving hits that you should otherwise die to. Auto Revive as a sigil is pretty bad because it takes so long for you to get back up, but if you don't have, like, let's say that you have a damage cap plus, and you can either choose between taking another separate Gut sigil versus a damage cap plus with that and Revive, you might as well just take Revive. Like, there's no shame in that. And the other defensive utility slash sigils you want to take is mostly going to be Steady Focus, just because you do end up charging a lot when you're playing Captain to get your, Power Surge plus active to do a lot more burst damage and get your arts up. So just having that Stout Heart there to defend you as you're charging up that important ability is always very nice. As for the other damage boosting sigils, you're going to want to look at Quick Charge in my opinion, just because Quick Charge not only gives you that percentage attack buff, it also makes your charge attack a little bit faster. It's not super important, don't get me wrong, Quick Charge is like pretty low on the priority list, but it is so nice having that slightly faster charge. It takes you like half a second faster to charge up all the way, which might not sound like a lot, but sometimes when Galanza is jumping you really want that half second up to be sooner, and that's kind of what it does. You're gonna have also got combo booster, stamina, like Tyranny. There's a lot of random stats you're always gonna want. basically they're all just percentage attack boosts. You're gonna want to choose the percentage attack boost that is most, I guess, flexible for you. So if you have a damage cap plus and you have stamina, tyranny, or like anything else that has a percentage attack on it, might as well just take it, unless it's like enmity that requires you to be low. It's just gonna be very useful for you to maintain your damage cap achieve rate, which is very important for getting your uptime and all that, obviously. You're also going to want your crit rate. You can see my crit rate is very, very low because I've somehow whiffed crit rate on all these secondary sigils. I know that people like having their crit rate high, but for me personally, I think that crit rate being a bit low is fine for the most part. I don't think it'll make or break a run. I think having a higher base attack is much more important, but again, I'm not an expert. That's just how I personally view it, and I'll definitely be chasing a 100% crit rate when I can, just because it is nice seeing those crit numbers pop up. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. Once again, I just want to do a very quick and dirty guide for the captain because there weren't many out there, and I hope this kind of solves a lot of questions that you may have had. Again, if you're a captain main yourself and you have issues with what I've said, or you have tips and tricks that you also want to offer, please let me know. I want to make this character as explored as possible. Their kit is so much fun. I want to see tank captain, I want to see support captain, I want to see damage captain, I want to see a captain in one of my runs. I want to be double captain. I haven't seen that yet, so this is my attempt of making this character more accessible. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a good day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time with a hopefully more in-depth, specific, and specialized captain video. Bye bye. It was fine. Why did the boss do such weird shit that fight? I don't think we killed stuff too quickly, right? It started blue instead of green. It's so weird. Turn. Break assassin. Overdrive. 7-star sword. Is that mine? There's no way that's mine. Doesn't sound like it. Maybe it is. Let's see. Let's see. Captain? Oh my god, it is. Oh, thank god. And we're quitting. Oh my god, I got it.